I gotta ask, what's the point of doing that at this point? Like, what's the point of tagging? I'm just asking.
How about you
No, I wanted to know because, you know, Old Vera Street, your thoughts on...
Get them the out of our city. If they don't stop, we're going to continue. We'll burn it all down.
I know, but vandalism, what does it do?
We burn it all down. You don't understand, stupid?
No, I'm not trying to be stupid.
You are.
Well, how come they're destroying the Mexican properties? The Mexican
property, bro.
Across the way at Old Vera Street.
I didn't do that.
Well,
this is their property.
Well, you should tell people to stop destroying.
I never touched a small business ever.
Okay.
Never. Only government property. Thank you, sir.
Gotcha.
So, Andy, did you take this video and did you have that interaction with that protester?
I was not the one who recorded that, but it was important to share it because that woman put into her own words, "We'll burn it all down." These are that's sort of the ideology of what we're facing. I think if the public is just consuming mainstream media and reading the headlines, you're coming out with the false impression again that these are peaceful protests or that these are racial justice protests, human rights protests, when what we have is a coalition of Mexican nationalist insurrectionists and also far left extremists and Antifa with an agenda of trying to bring the U.S. government to its knees if their demands are not met, and this is domestic terrorism.
What's interesting is that you have federal law enforcement being brought in to carry out federal immigration laws and actually find people who've broken those laws. So, you know, it seems to me that what's going on is by the books, and the protests don't like that. They're okay with people coming into this country here illegally and staying, and in some cases, committing crimes. This all is very similar to what we've seen, at least the imagery that stands out, Andy, of the 2020 BLM riots that I know you covered closely and kept a close eye on. And but the Trump administration has a different approach this time, right? They're not hesitating to send in the National Guard until it's after the fact. So what do you think even you as a reporter has learned from covering the riots that happened just a few years ago compared to present day?
Right. So what we're seeing now is nothing new. The mob tactics are the same that we saw in 2020, that political violence. It's the same. And remember, in 2018, there were violent attacks on ICE property over lies at that time in the media over the first Trump administration's immigration policies. I think what we're seeing now that's different is that the Trump administration very quickly mobilized federal officers and agents to protect federal property because if not, I suspect that these federal buildings that have been targeted in Los Angeles, Seattle, in Texas, in Atlanta, in New York City last night, they would probably be burnt to the ground. And so I don't believe, Gavin Newsom, that California officials have the capacity to protect these properties and buildings because over the last 5 days, we've seen looting, arson attacks all over. LAPD is overwhelmed, stretched thin. And there may have even been a death related to the riots because there was a body found at one of the looting sites, and that's under investigation right now.
Yeah,
that's the first we're hearing about that.
But you mentioned the looting and the businesses. We actually have some more numbers to share on that, right? I believe there were just over 23 businesses being reported as being looted during these protests, turned riots in many instances. And you can see, some video being posted of, businesses boarding up because they're doing their best to protect themselves. Does Karen Bass and Gavin Newsom, do they care about these local shops that are being hit?
Evidently not, since what the statements that they're putting out are making excuses for the rioters or downplaying the violence and also demonizing those who are coming up with solutions to maintain peace and security in these areas that are being hit with violence from those who are announcing it online, and they're extremely organized. They have money coming in. Some of them are linked to nonprofit groups. So people really underestimate how organized they are and what they're trying to do. They're trying to turn this into a national insurrection, which is why we saw yesterday violence break out in New York City and in Seattle.
Thank you.